Hello and welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. No Jens today, so I'm going to fly solo on this one, and I'll keep the opening and probably end with the music news a little shorter than usual. I have a little bit of a cold that I got from my son. He was so generous to share with me over the weekend, and it's lingering. So don't want to do too much talking to myself in this opening, but I am excited that we have Rick Ventura from Riot Act on the program today. We had a great conversation and really dug into his old work with Riot and how they've come back around, and he's continuing to make awesome music. They have a new album called Closer to the Flame, which I recommend checking out. And it was just such a pleasure to talk to him. I mean, about all the tours that they'd been on and notable acts that they've done. Outside of that, what's going on in my life? Oh, I'm a homeowner now for the first time, which is exciting. I don't get to step foot into the home until the end of April, though. Not again, anyway. Until the end of April, because the current owner of the home. Well, here's what happened. Okay, so I texted with my realtor to just confirm what the date I would have the keys of the house is. She said, "Let me get back to you on that." My understanding was that I would have the keys on St. Patrick's Day, which I had a plan to do the first half of the move on March 19th, 2 days after St. Patrick's Day, and then just take a bunch of stuff, leave it in the garage for the first half of the move, stay in Napa for the remainder until late May, since my kids will be continuing to go to school in Napa through the rest of the school year. That was my plan. So found out from my realtor that my dates were actually off of what I had been told. I would have the keys. So, okay, that was a little annoying at first. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to have to move the move date, or the owner will have to get out 2 days earlier. But there was a wrench that ended up being stuck in the spokes, in that the current owner of the house actually moved to Texas, lost her job, moved back to California, and wanted to stay in the house, and asked if she could keep it. Okay, yeah, not too interested in that. I'll tell you, I will be paying a lot of taxes on money that I had to pull out of stock that that the current owner would have to pay if that were the case, right? If I let her just keep the house and walk away after I've gone through this much of the process, signed so many pages of documents. The house is mine, right? I'm under no obligation to do that. Where it got a little interesting, though, is since I don't need the house right now, and I was actually wanting to draw it out a little bit, just draw out that timeline longer, is that I figured, okay, why not offer for her to stay in the house until the end of April? And my realtor said, okay, you don't need to do that, but I can offer that if you like. So I said, sure, let's do that. Let's offer to let her stay in the house till the end of April. She should pay for the house in the meantime, because it's not in my possession, which it should be. And apparently the current owner was overjoyed and drawn to tears because she was so overjoyed by that offer, and so she could figure out her life and finding a new home for her and her kid or kids, whatever the situation is there, right? Great. And then everybody starts getting in my ear about squatters and, oh, what if she doesn't move out, and all these things. And California errs on the side of the tenant and all of that, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I believe? And then my realtor is like, no, that's not really a thing. It hasn't been a thing since 2006. I've done a lot of these. It doesn't happen in this area. People have money, and don't do that sort of thing, right? I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure I get my house at the end of this, right? That's all I care about. He said, I have a house at the end of the process, and that I'm not the homeless one after I shelled out a shit ton of money. That's what I care about. So needing to make sure I do everything right, and and take into account the feedback that's been provided, but also trust my realtor through this process, as she's really reliable, and has a good reputation, right? So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've signed the papers to allow the current owner to, I guess, rent back the property in the meantime, until she finds a new home. And in the meantime, I don't have anywhere I need to be right now either, because I had given my landlord until the end of May for notice to for my moving out. So that's a big thing on my plate. Also, continue to work on the Century ride that I'm building up toward with my buddy Joe. We are about halfway there. We did a 49 plus mile. I know we couldn't hit that 50th 49 plus mile ride on Sunday, and it was felt great. I mean, I was good. I could keep going. Could have kept going at the end of the 49 miles. It did help that we stopped for a beer about 8 miles before the end at one of Joe's friend's house, and we brought him around for a handful of miles as well, and on the ride, and just had a good ride. We did some more hills, so that was a bit of a challenge more, but we were able to push through it, and it was enjoyable. I really dug it. So proud of how that's coming along. And 5 more miles this weekend, I think. So maybe that takes us up to 55. I'm not sure if we're going all the way there. So we'll see. But we're getting closer. Early May is when we have that ride. Just the next week after I technically get the keys and start the move in on my new house. So lots of things shaking. Good stuff. I'm gonna try and get some rest in the meantime, and shake this cold, because it's no fun. But it doesn't slow me down. I'm going to get out for a 49-mile bike ride. I'm going to do the Peloton still. I did a 30-minute ride yesterday afternoon with a different buddy, my buddy John, and it was my 1250th ride, and I got a shout out on the Peloton. So, that was cool. Things keep moving and shaking, and you can't stop me. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right. We're going to bring in Rick Ventura from Riot Act. Thank you again to Rick for taking the time. Let's bring Rick on in. Rick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm awesome. It's Friday, no complaints, right? So
yeah, not yet.
I know, exactly.
There's still more time for a disaster.
There's time. Yeah. So I want to start out with how are you holding up right now? How are things going for you? On this side of kind of where we're at in the world right now.
Well, everything in the world is disturbing at the moment for the past 2 years, and now what's going on in Ukraine. So everything's kind of disturbing, but we're just pushing ahead, playing music, and excited about the release of the album.
Yeah. So Riot Act kind of formed shortly before COVID started in an official sense, right?
Yeah. About a year prior to that, Lou Cavaris and I, he approached me to, hey, let's get together and play. Let's never played together. Let's play some the old Riot songs. So I was always reluctant to do it, but we were inducted into the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame a few years back, and on the plane ride home, we both looked at each other. I said, hey, I guess you're right. Maybe we should get together and play. Seems like the time is right, after all these years. There's always been a buzz about that period of the band. And so we decided to get together, and we jammed with two friends of mine that I was playing with, and it sounded really good. It sounded really cool playing those old songs together. And Lou and I, like I said, never played them together, but we just had, big grins on our faces when we were playing.
Yeah. Did it feel like this piece of you that was missing for a long time?
Piece of me missing?
Yeah. To kind of get back together and kind of play those old songs again.
Well, it's always in you, for a long period, I viewed it as, all right, it was what it was, and move on. You really can't recreate what had been. So, but I always continued to write, and that, I guess, Riot is just embedded in me from that period, because we spent so many years together, as teenagers. I was around the band before the band even broke, so it's been instilled in me for so many years. And I would run into people, or I would play somewhere and go, "Aren't you Rick from Riot?" And it just never went away. It's just so, it's like, wow, after all these years, people still really dig the band, and still talk about it. So yeah, I guess I'm doomed.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a good thing.
yeah. And I guess we can get some of the heavy stuff out early. I mean, Lou, you kind of brought this about with Lou, and then we unfortunately lost Lou to COVID. And like, what?
Right.
Tell me kind of about going through that experience, and also the decision to keep moving forward, keep that march going forward. After Lou passed.
Right. Lou really, he lit the spark. He was just so excited about doing this. And he would call me, and then when we finally decided, like I mentioned earlier, when we decided to do it, it was just like we were on a roll. We recorded a 6-song EP, constantly playing, rehearsing, and we got to perform together just one time in January, I think the second or third Heavy Metal Hall of Fame induction. So we actually played for the first time and the only time as a band, because right after that, COVID hit. And that was January. And then we lost Lou in March of that year. So everything just came to a halt, and we were just in shock. So sometimes I still can't believe he's gone. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of shocking. So it really blew us all away. We stopped what we were doing. I was really not sure what I wanted to do, because I was kind of really freaked out for quite a while. I had all these songs, ideas I wanted to get out there. After a number of months, we all spoke, the guys in the band, and they all wanted to play, and I wanted to play, and we just wanted to keep moving forward. For us and for Lou, he would have wanted it to go on, So we just started writing.
Yeah.
And then we just got back in the saddle.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about the induction. What was that like for you?
It was kind of hard to believe, actually, because when we first heard about it, I was kind of shocked. I guess you don't realize how important the band was at that time. I guess it still is to some extent. At first, I didn't even want to go, but Lou said, he says, "Oh, we have to go," and everybody's telling me, "You're crazy, you have to go," So it was a very cool ceremony. It sort of woke up something in me to get out there and really continue where it left off, basically. So it was emotional. Lou and I really, got a bit emotional, because after all these years, Riot was always under the radar. We were when Fire Down Under came out, we were touring and opening for Rush, Black Sabbath, AC/DC. I mean, it was amazing. The band was right at the verge of really hitting, making it big. And we've just been struck with tragedies, losing Guy, Red, Mark, and it was so. it seemed like, hey, maybe now's the time. Maybe after all these years, it was worth sticking it out and, still playing and writing and putting something out there that I think the Riot fans and new fans will enjoy.
Yeah. Would you say it was kind of the loss of the previous members, the emotions around that kind of made you hesitant to want to go to the induction ceremony?
I viewed it as a period that was over. There was so much frustration during that period with with management. There was always something going on. Nothing was ever smooth. We'd reach a point and then we get knocked down again, and we'd reach a point and just lots of bad luck. Guy had left the band while we were touring with Rush. So that was a major blow.
Yeah.
And then we had to, find a new singer. So we got Rhett, and that lasted for two albums, and just started going the opposite direction. The band started to change a bit towards the very end. It was just, it left a bad taste in my mouth. I was just like, wow, after all these years, all the hard work we put in, and it just kind of fizzed out. And that probably why I was a bit reluctant to go, but I'm glad I went, so Lou and I rekindled a friendship, and now the Riot Act came out of it. So I guess it's meant to be,
Yeah, for sure. So I want to go back. I want to know a little bit about your childhood, what music you were listening to. Did your parents have, any musical influence on you?
Let's see. The influence, my parents always played mostly artists like Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Shirley Bassey, really old school. I could probably, just remember always hearing Tony Bennett in my home.
Yeah.
So it was always, that I actually met him once. So it was kind of cool. I got him to autograph a CD for my father. He was like thrilled. So, and I was really kind of freaked out meeting Tony Bennett. This is a number of years back. So it was like, meeting like Jimmy Page or something, like an idol. But it was left an impact on me. I was a toddler. My mom took me to see A Hard Day's Night in the theater.
Yeah.
When it first came out. I must have been like, maybe 6 or 7 or something. And that left an impression because it was just screaming girls through the whole movie. And I was just like, what is going on here? And just watching the reaction and watching the Beatles, just like, wow, this was just like, it really left a mark in me, at such a young age. But I didn't pick up the guitar till years later. I started to get into heavier music. I remember the first time, and I used to go to bed with the radio, transistor radio, and I used to listen to music constantly. And I remember back in those days, the AM, this was the AM stations, and you would hear, your typical pop stuff. And then all of a sudden you would hear like Cream or Jimi Hendrix mixed in with all this pop stuff. And I was like, I was a little kid, and I was like, what the hell is this? This is just so out there. And I just zeroed in on those bands. And I got into Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and I picked up the guitar, I'd say around 15 or 16, a little later,
Yeah.
So, see, back, so many guitar idols back then, and they had a major influence on me. So that's how I really got into it.
Yeah. Did you do the high school band thing also? Did you latch on with some guys?
Not really. No, I was never in a high school band type of thing. It was, I mean, it was outside of school. I got together with
Yeah.
friends. Maybe I'm just trying to think. Probably when I was 18, started to play. We played in garage. It was garage rock, so we
Yeah.
played in our friend's garage, and we play all the songs that of the bands we loved. So we played Highway Star, Dazed and Confused,
Mm.
Montrose, which was a big influence on Riot. Yeah, we played it in the garage or a basement. And then
Yeah.
I met Mark Reale because he lived around the corner from me. I remember walking down the block and hearing loud music blasting from this house, like I'm going, what is going on in this house? I remember going downstairs, just like Marshalls on 10,
Yeah.
blasting into the street. It was like the parents didn't care. And it's just really funny. So I just fell into that world.
Yeah. And your parents were supportive as you were kind of
Yeah,
getting
they
into
were.
there?
Yeah, they were cool. That I was into it. And my grandparents they bought me a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and I bought my first guitar. I actually went to see. I think it was probably I was had to be in my mid-teens. I went to see a Jimi Hendrix movie in the Village, and I remember watching. Yeah, he had passed, obviously. This is years later. Oh yeah, not that much later actually, and watching him and being like, "Wow, this guy is from another planet." And I went out and bought a white Stratocaster. I saved up all my money for a Stratocaster. Yeah, that was kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned Montrose. You had the opportunity to support Sammy Hagar on a British tour. Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, that was wild because they were a big influence, especially Mark. Mark loved Montrose, and we all liked the band, and it was cool, meeting him and touring with him, and it was the same high energy rock and roll that we were doing and what he was doing. So he, came from the same school, grew up on the same artists. So it was a thrill. We started to tour with bands that we listened to. We got to tour at AC/DC when Bon Scott was alive.
Yeah.
It was a trip for us because we were so young.
Yeah. Yeah. How was that AC/DC experience?
Oh, that was wild. It was just amazing touring with them. They were fun guys. They were just just regular down to earth guys. Hang out and have a drink with them. Yeah, I remember doing laundry once with Angus's wife. It was just like so funny,
Surreal, right?
Yeah, it was just like, wow, it's just funny stuff, I always liked Angus, his guitar playing. I thought it was like electrifying. I always felt, I used to watch him. It's like, wow, no wonder they're called AC/DC. It sounds like he plugs his guitar right into a socket, not even to an amp, because he plays with such intensity, such electricity.
Yeah, yeah. And how about Black Sabbath? You mentioned them earlier. Tell me about that tour.
Yeah.
How did that go for you?
Yeah, toured with them with Ronnie Dio. That period, the Black and Blue tour, actually, Blue Oyster Cult was on the bill, and that was really something because I was a big Rainbow fan. I loved Rainbow, Richie Blackmore, Rainbow, and Dio when those albums came out. Yeah, I thought they were great, and then to see Dio with Sabbath, that was a great record, Heaven and Hell. So, yeah, that was really a trip, because I mean, Sabbath was such legends, and got to hang with them. I remember we were in a hotel, the elevator door opens, and Geezer Butler's standing there with Bill Ward, and I walk in, and they were the nicest thing. Geezer invited, he said, "Hey, come up to my hotel room, we'll hang out," So I'm hanging out with Geezer Butler and Bill Ward, and he was actually, we were telling him about the band. It was me and the bass player, Kip. We were telling him what we were going through management-wise and all the struggles, and they were telling us what they went through, and they were giving us tips, because we were young guys, and they were just helping us out. You know, they was telling us exactly all the crap they went through and how they were screwed left and right by everybody. And you know, they were just saying, "Hey, watch out for this. You got to do this and this." And it was such a memorable. They were the nicest guys. They were such great guys. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, it took you under their wing a little bit, it sounds like.
Yeah, they were so cool. You know, so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Last tour question. Well, you toured with so many amazing artists, so I gotta hit as many of them as I can. Kiss. Tell me about Kiss.
Oh, I never played with Kiss.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, the band probably toured after I was gone. I never did a tour with Kiss, unfortunately.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Then we'll stick with the other awesome ones. But so what? Oh, go ahead.
Well, Rush was you know, touring Rush during the Moving Pictures period. That was amazing. I mean, we were playing in my. I'm from Brooklyn, but we had played Nassau Coliseum, which is like, you know, my own stomping grounds. You know, playing. Wow, we're playing, and everybody came to that show. You know, my parents were there. Everybody was, wow, you guys are playing Nassau Coliseum opening for Rush. And that was like so big, you know?
Yeah.
So that, and you know, it was a trip during sound check. We noticed Geddy Lee would check us out during sound check. Quite a few times we saw him out front checking us out.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, Geddy's checking us out. You know, it was like wild. It was like, they're very nice guys too.
Did you ever get nervous in those sort of situations, or did the nerves start out and then subside, or?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially playing a gig like that, you know, this crazy nervous energy, but it all works out good when you get on stage, because it just helps you get going, and it's sort of like somebody kicking you from behind out. All right, now it's time, go out there and use that energy, and the audience would just feed off it. I mean, we, you know, every time we opened all these big bands, we went over great. We always went over well. Usually, you know, opening bands, it's like, oh, you know, we're opening for this band, they're gonna boo us off. But that was never the case with Riot.
Yeah,
the audience always loved us, which was amazing, really. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me about the dynamic of the original Riot lineup. You guys formed in '79, right?
Oh, before that,
Before that, okay.
There's so many incarnations of the band. Yeah, there was so many incarnations of the band. At the Rock City lineup was Mark Reale, Guy Speranza, Lou Cavares, Jimmy Iommi, and Peter Batelli. And that was essentially when the recording beginning of the band. There was a bass player, Phil Fight, who was originally the bass player in Riot. He was an important part in the early formation of Riot, but then Jimmy had replaced him on bass for the first album. So then I came in on the second album. There was a lot of lineup changes until just had the right combination of people, and then during Fire Down Under, that sort of happened where it just came alive.
Yeah, and so tell me about Fire Down Under, because I know you said that's kind of where you really hit your stride, but there was a lot of turmoil around, you know, by the record label with that album too. Like, tell me about that experience.
Yeah, but they didn't feel there was anything commercial or a single on it. They actually wanted another song released as a single, and something that I had written, and we just didn't think it was the right thing at that time. So we were going. We were on Capitol, we were on Elektra, and it was a lot of juggling with labels and trying to get the right people behind the band to support it. There was a lot of issues with management and the labels. Typical turmoil, which really didn't help the band at all. Yeah, that's the depressing part of it. You know, I think back of it. I sometimes I don't even like to think about it and talk about it, because it was just probably one of the reasons Guy might have left. I think just being fed up with all the politics and people taking too much advantage, you know, for themselves. Not enough
Yeah.
piece of the pie to go around. So
Yeah.
that was our downfall.
It just must have been a real challenge to feel like you're clicking so well, and the what you have is freaking awesome, right? But not get that support from the other side where you need it, right?
Yeah. I remember meeting with a manager of a very big band called Metallica when they were little kids.
Right.
I met them with little kids. You've heard of them, right?
Oh, little Bay Area garage band, yeah.
Yeah, I remember meeting him in New York, and I was talking to the manager, and he was telling us, it was me and him actually. He was telling me, you guys could be the next big thing. He goes, but you have to break away from your management, and you have to. And that really woke me up. And I remember him introducing me to Metallica. See these guys over here? They're going to be the next big thing. And I'm looking at them, and they're just, you know, they were like young kids, and we're all sitting. They were sitting on a sofa, you know, all lined up in the sofa, and I was just, oh, okay. Like I knew nothing of them, you know. It was right before they broke, and then the next time you know, Metallica hits, you know, and this guy was right on the money, because we had talked about breaking away, but it's so complex. There was some inner turmoil with the band. Some people didn't want to break away, and some of us did. So that really was detrimental.
Yeah.
And we should have broke away, and Guy might have still stayed with the band. Who knows?
Yeah. So how much longer were you with the band after that?
Well, we did Restless Breed with Red Forrester. He came into the band. He had a different style, a little bluesier, a lot of swagger. He, you know, it's a long blonde hair, and he just had this rock and roll image. You know, he just looked at me. He was a very cool guy. He was very cool. He was a Southern boy, and we did Restless Breed, and we did Born in America, and that was it. You know, then I was gone. The band stayed on for a little bit, then they all fell apart. Mark continued it, and that was it. And I was just like, okay, that's it for me. I'm done with this. I'm just going to do something else. And now after all these years, comes full circle. You know, it's so strange.
Yeah, and Ryan had a huge presence in Japan too, right? Like,
we always starting with Rock City and Narita. The band just had made some kind of impression on the Japanese fans there. They just loved. We had a song called Tokyo Rose, actually, which really wasn't written for that reason. They just it just happened to be a song that Guy wrote, and it just turns out, you know, we started to develop a fan base there. And I was like, wow, back then I never got to go to, we never went to Japan. I know Mark had gone later with his other incarnation of Riot, but I did go a few years back and played Loud Park. I think it was 2016. Riot 5 had asked me to go there and perform the Fire Down Under album with them. And that was kind of freaky. And I did it. And this is before the heavy metal induction. So I guess it's kind of started right around then, because Mark had passed away. And when I went to Japan, I could not believe the fans.
Yeah.
I mean, we played a huge venue. It was a big, a lot of parks, a big festival. Like White Snake was on it, Scorpions. It was a huge festival, and we played for an amazing crowd. And we did the whole album. And afterwards, I mean, fans would just line up for autographs, and I was like, whoa! I was like blown away. You know, they were like thrilled to meet me. And it's like, oh, you know, what are you doing and all that? And I was like, that really woke me up.
Yeah. I hear amazing things about the Japan audience also, right? Like it's like they applaud really fast and then all of a sudden silence, right? Like give respect to the artist after that.
It is kind of amusing, but it's not. I mean, it's not amusing. It's they're so respectful, and they're just a pleasure to talk to. They're so polite. They're so into it. They're so. I remember being in a hotel after the show, and one morning, it's early morning, I'm just walking in around the hotel, and I'm noticing there's people following me, but they're a ways back, and I see they have albums, and then one of them approached me and just so politely said, "Oh, Rick, could you please sign these albums?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, of course," and they were just so thrilled and so polite. There was like 10 people there, and this was like 7:30 in the morning, just walking around the hotel, and they were signing their Riot records for them. So that was kind of cool. I'd love to go back.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day we'll be back there.
Yeah, and so you talked about Riot 5, and you kind of had started getting back together with them just before Mark died, right? So that kind of bridged that gap a little bit.
Yeah, it was kind of that was very weird when Mark passed away, because they were going to perform in New York, and I hadn't seen Mark in years. And I was going to the show. I was going to surprise Mark and go and see him. And some of my buddies were, and then it just never happened. But they actually did play, and they asked me to come and do a song or two. And this is probably I think it's a year or so before. It's a few years before Loud Park. So that's actually the first time where I was sort of like brought into that Riot area again after so many years. So I did Swords of Tequila and Warrior, and we had played BB King's in New York. And that's, I think, where it really hit me, even before Loud Park. So I actually started with that gig. After I played, there was people that came to see the band, and they were walking over to me, and there was a line of people wanting to meet me. And I was just there, and I played, and I was just going to go home. It was just, and there were some people from Europe, and they were going, "We came here. Never in a million years we would have expected to see you come on stage and play some songs." So I was really blown away. I was like, oh my God, wow, people really remembered. And so after that, it all started to snowball, I guess. And a few years later, the Loud Park gig, and then the heavy metal induction ceremony, and then getting together with Lou and forming Riot Act. And that's how we're here now. That's essentially how it happened,
Yeah, and so that leads you to the new album with Riot Act that you have, Closer to the Flame.
Right.
Tell me about the process of pulling this album together. I mean, what's changed? And how did we get to this point?
Okay, all right. So when we decided to get back and go forward after Lou's passing, I had so many ideas and riffs and pieces, songs, like a dozen tunes that just always needed a great vocalist. And that was the frustrating part for me, because for years I could never find a singer that can really put across the songs the way I heard them in my head.
Yeah.
We tried different singers, and it just didn't happen. And when we first got Don, we got him through a friend of Lou's who said, "Hey, you got to check out this guy, Don Chafin." And so when we first played with Don, I sent him 3 Riot songs. He learned them, and when we went to play him in the studio, I was just like, "Oh my God, he's putting across the original Riot songs really well, but he's got his own thing going on." And he had the energy and the powerful voice. And I was like, "Oh, wow, this is the guy I've been looking for years, So I started sending material to Don, and he would write back, "Oh, this is great. I'm going to come up with something." And I sent him a dozen things, and he worked on them at his home. And and this was during COVID, so it was very weird. Everybody's, trying to keep their distance. We were spooked by losing Lou. And a lot of musicians in this area really didn't make it. So
Yeah.
it was very scary period. So I did a lot of recording at home. I would do demos at home, give it to the band. We would get together, just the 3 of us, Paul, Claudio, myself, and we work on the ideas in the studio, and we all wore masks and stayed apart from each other. And Don worked separately, so we really never really played together as a band. It was such a weird recording process,
Yeah.
And then we go into it was bizarro, because I remember saying, "Wow, I've never worked like this. It's just so weird, so strange." Because back when we recorded the old records, it was like we were all together as a band, and we were constantly playing together, playing in the studio, playing in rehearsal space, in our rehearsal studio. And so this came about in such a different way, but it came about really well. So everything was sort of done in his studio at different times. A lot of stuff was worked out in the studio. It was just a very unusual recording process, but it came out great. For the struggles that we went through, it came out really well. And we had recorded 6 Riot tunes for the EP, but then we did 6 more. So with this new album, there's 12 Riot tunes that we did, and Lou is on them. And
Wow.
There's 10 new songs on Closer to the Flame. So yeah, I mean, we did it. We're all proud of it, and it's going to be released April 1st in Europe and the 15th in the States. So we're pretty thrilled about it.
Oh, for sure. And you've recorded a couple of videos too. I mean, the Wanted video is pretty awesome. Tell me about that process.
Yeah, Wanda was the first song that we did as a band, first original song, and that I think captures the energy and the intensity of the band, and it's one of my favorite songs on it. And Don he also likes it. So we decided to go with that for the video, because we're saying, what are we going to do? What's going to really represent the band and still have that, and has that feel of the old Riot, but with the new refreshing sound. And we just went with that song, and that was our first release. And then we did Stand or Fall.
Yeah,
just released that a few weeks ago, and we'll be working on another one by the time the album's released. So the next video. So we'll have 3 videos out, 3 singles, and see where it goes.
And was that kind of your approach as you went into this, right? You're like, okay, we want to pay respect to the original Riot, feel, but also keep it fresh and new at the same time. And
Well,
was that ever
you know
spoken?
what? It's funny because the riffs and the songs I worked on, it was just like how I write. This is, this is me. I wasn't like, I'm sit here and analyze Riot records and try to, those are the songs I wrote, the riffs and the chord changes, and that's just what I do, and that's how it just comes out. And Don just related to that so perfectly. So such a great writing partner. He loved the changes, and it just came out like that. So I guess being in that band for so many years, and the whole concept of the band and the kind of music that Mark and I had grown up on, it was very similar. So that's what you're getting with the Riot Act is just what comes out of me and Don and the band.
Yeah. So a couple more questions before we wind down. You shared a story in a video that you did about, I guess you sold a guitar back in '76, but you found it later, like 5 years later. Tell me in a record store, right? Tell me that story.
Oh, wow. Interesting that you know about that. That guitar, that Sunburst Les Paul, is the guitar that I use. I actually purchased it in '76, and I used it on Narita and Fire Down Under in every subsequent album, and on Closer to the Flame. For some reason, I had sold that guitar years back. But these are for the guitar geeks out there. Mark and I had bought, I think this was 1980. Gibson had reissued the fabled Sunburst Les Paul for the first time, and Mark and I bought one. We each bought one, and I started to use it, and I just put the guitar I bought in '76, that I put it aside. I wasn't using it, and for some stupid reason, I sold it. And then that guitar, the one I purchased in 1980, was stolen at a gig. So I had no Les Paul. And I was just devastated. I'm going, oh my God, I sold the guitar that I used on all those Riot records. It was such a great guitar. I'll never see it, and I just, that was it. I said, okay, well, that's it. And I was playing a Stratocaster for quite a while. So one day I said, I'm just tired of this. And I go into the music store that I originally bought that Les Paul from, and I was going to trade in the Stratocaster. And on the wall is my guitar.
And it was yours. You knew it was yours.
I instantly. It's hanging on the wall. And I look at the owner, because we had dealt with this music store for many years, because they were the neighborhood music store. Very nice guys, and they would lend us equipment and stuff like that. I said, that's my guitar. He goes, a guy just brought it in the day before.
What are the odds? How does that?
I just bought it right back then. I said, I just walked out of the store. I was like in shock. I was in shock. I actually got that guitar back. And this was, I don't know, probably early 80s, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably mid 80s. I hadn't seen it in like 5 years or something like that. I mean, how bizarre is that,
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was really crazy. And that guitar, like I said, I bought it in '76, but I think it's a 70 or 69 actually. But yeah, so that guitar is in the Wanted video. So I was reunited with that. So yeah, now the band's, it's sort of like this is all meant to be after all these decades, it's like it's all meant to be, there's something behind it there. So this album features that guitar on it.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And I mean, with the band that has had, clouds over it, and challenges over all the years for all the positivity for moving forward. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, so we're on a new path now. We decided to continue, and Close to Flame is the result of all the hard work we put in, and all the guys in the band, Don Chafin, Paul Ranieri, Claudia Glinski, myself. They're just great players, and there's a good chemistry with the band, so we're really excited about it. And we'll be going on tour in August. We're going to England, so we're looking forward to that, and looking forward to the release of the album. If people want to keep up to date, check out riotactband.com and post all our latest videos and little tidbits and cooking tips and household tips. I'll throw that in there too.
You do a lot of cooking?
Yes, I do, actually.
Oh, that's awesome. What's your go-to dish?
Oh, I love Italian and Mexican.
Yeah.
So I dabble in both areas. I'll do anything, actually.
Yeah. Nice. I like it. And so the tour, do you see any US tour dates on the horizon?
Not yet. Hopefully soon, because I'd love to play the States.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, so when we first started in Riot, Texas was a big stronghold for us, so it'd be nice to go there. That'd be cool to do some dates in Texas. But we'll see what happens. I think we just got some dates in Spain now in September. So far it's England and Spain in August and September. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, well, awesome. Well, Rick, thank you for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. And
it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, back at you. I mean, so many great stories from over the years, and unique, awesome opportunities, and topped off with the guitar that you were reunited with. So I love it. Very cool. Well, Rick, have a great rest of your day, and good luck with the album release as well. Okay.
Thanks so much. Take care.
That was the interview with Rick Ventura from Riot Act here on Concert Pipeline. And that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. All right, I have a couple of stories to wind out the program today, and what's going on in the music world. First off, Dolly Parton. Quite a badass, I'd say, because she rejected the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nomination. She announced that she declined her nomination to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, stating that she doesn't believe she's earned the right. Even though I'm extremely flattered and grateful to be nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't feel that I've earned that right. I really do not want votes to be split because of me, so I must respectfully bow out, she wrote in a statement. I do hope that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will understand and be willing to consider me again if I'm ever worthy. This has, however, inspired me to put out a hopefully great rock and roll album at some point in the future, which I've always wanted to do. So she may put out a rock and roll album at some point, and then at 25 years, I mean, it's 25 years as an artist that you are considered. So I don't know that she'll really be around 25 years after whenever she puts out a rock and roll album. Just gonna throw it out there, but I still think it's an awesome thing that she did, and she did it with class. Let's say, because it's one thing to just shut it down and say meh. But she did it pretty classy and kept true to her morals, and that she's not really a rock artist, so I didn't feel like she earned that right. So it makes sense, right? Okay. There are a couple of big tours. There's a lot of artists are announcing their summer tours right now. We're in the midst of that. So ZZ Top is one of them. ZZ Top have announced a new live album and North American tour. They've announced this tour. It's Raw is the new live album. It's set to be released July 22nd via Shelter Records and VMG. It's an 11-track LP recorded for the trio's 2019 Netflix documentary, That Little Old Band from Texas. let's see here. The set list includes Lagrange, of course. That's great. Awesome. Tush and Give Me All Your Lovin', as well as deep cuts such as Brown Sugar and Certified Blues. It was, in a very real way, a return to our roots. Givens and Beard reveal in the album's liner notes. Just us and the music, no audience of thousands, no concession stands, no parking lot social hour. No flat decks of tour buses, just us and the music. We knew right then that it was a very special circumstance, all of us in the same place at the same time, and what a time it most certainly was. They said it was as bare bones as when we first started touring in a behemoth Chrysler station wagon, driving vast stretches between those early far-flung shows under blackened Texas skies and first hearing our record on the radio. We were bonded as brothers. So this is their first release since the death of Hill, who died at home in his sleep last year. In the liner notes for Raw, Givens and Beard add, the dust may have left the building, but he still is very much with us. Very thoughtful. And so they're going to be hitting the Bay Area, the Northern California, I guess we could say, June 1st in Redding and June 2nd in Saratoga. So it's the Raw Whiskey Tour, but that is well before their new album comes out. So if you wanted to listen to the new album first, you're not going to be able to. You have to see them and then really continue to enjoy their music through their album when it comes out. Another big tour that was announced is Incubus. Incubus announced a massive US tour with Sublime with Rome. Their tour kicks off in West Palm Beach, Florida in July. A number of stops along the way. The Aqua Dolls will also be joining the group on tour, and that's going to hit the Bay Area at Mountain View Shoreline on August 26th, one of the later dates of the tour. But there's a number of dates listed there. Their Incubus's most recent project was 2020's Trust Fall Side B EP. And when asked about the progress of the band's next album, the follow-up to 2017's 8, Boyd told NME he hoped to have something out by spring this year. Well, we just sprung forward, so I guess it's time, isn't it? Although, also, side note, I did see today that the Senate passed the bill that would make daylight savings time permanent, which is great. Let's get rid of it, right? We don't need a daylight savings time. So Brandon Boyd said, we went out and did some shows and we're all rehearsed up and ready to play. Our intention is to put together a new group of songs, whether it be an EP or an LP. They're not sure, but we're hoping to have that done sometime by spring. But there's a lot of hope in that statement. So no promises, but they do promise a tour coming down the road. So Bob Dylan has announced a new book, The Philosophy of Modern Song. This story is dedicated to Jens and his fandom of Bob Dylan. It's his first book since his 2004 memoir, Chronicles Volume 1, The Philosophy of Modern Song, out November 8th, will be a collection of over 60 essays focusing on songs by other artists. He will analyze songwriters such as Stephen Foster, Elvis Costello, Hank Williams, Nina Simone. There's a number of them. Bob Dylan analyzes what he calls the trap of easy rhymes, breaks down how the addition of a single syllable can diminish a song, and even explains how bluegrass relates to heavy metal. These are essays that are written in Dylan's unique prose. They're mysterious and poignant and profound and often laugh out loud funny. Okay, never laughed out loud at Bob Dylan, I can fairly say, so I don't know that I'd be looking to his writing for humor, but I'm open to being swayed and interested in what he would write that is comical. Speaking of comical, Grimes revealed a secret second baby with Elon Musk. So they had a secret second baby together via surrogate in December. They revealed in a new interview with Vanity Fair news of their new daughter, whose full name is Exa Dark Side Rail Musk, but they call her Y. following her older brother, nicknamed X, comes 6 months after a report that Grimes and Musk had broken up. Despite the reported split, the pair welcomed their daughter 3 months later, with Grimes also moving to Musk's new home base in Austin, Texas in December. So they were asked by Vanity Fair whether the two were still together. Grimes said, "There's no real word for it. I'd probably refer to him as my boyfriend, but we're pretty fluid. We live in separate houses. We're best friends. We see each other all the time. We have our own thing going on, and I don't expect other people to understand it. No one needs to judge. Everybody can do their own thing." The naming of the children is pretty out of this world, though. But, Elon Musk doesn't live in this world very much, and that's what makes him a cool, free thinker. Dig it. All right. So, one more story before we wrap. And of course, that has to do with Mr. Dave Grohl. And this one is a story that I just thought was really interesting. He was recently on the Late Late Show with James Corden, and it's a pretty funny segment. James Corden plays on the keyboard some Foo Fighters songs. James Corden admits he freely doesn't know how to play the keyboard at all. This is a little handheld keyboard, and Dave Grohl has to guess the songs that he's playing. Very difficult to do. But it's a funny segment. But before they got to the silliness, Dave Grohl was asked about his work ethic and how he does everything he's done, because he's inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the second time. He made a comedy horror film that apparently was a flop, right? Still haven't seen it yet, though intend to in the future. He's put out a new album, and he's going, I think he's currently in Australia because the country just opened up and they wanted to be the first band to play in Australia. So here's his story. I'm just going to let him say it here from the James Corden show, because he doesn't sleep and he marches to the beat of his own drum. And this is a great summary of why we talk about Dave Grohl every week here on Concert Pipeline.
I don't sleep much. And there are times when I'll wake up in the morning at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm just like, oh my God, what can I do today? Like about 2 weeks ago, I woke up, opened up my phone, looked at the news, and saw that Australia was opening its borders.
Yes.
For the first time in years. It's at February 21st. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, I text my manager and I'm like, we need to go there next week to be the first band to go down. And so he's like, okay. And so this weekend, we're going to go down there and play the first big show. Whoa! Oh, that's amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yes. It is amazing because they can do that. They just are like, hey, we're going to play in Australia. Cool. All right. Peace. Let's go do it. That's Dave Grohl. That's Dave Grohl. And there's like no one like him. I mean, it's just incredible what he does. And he does his own thing. And he's so creative. He doesn't like to do what other people have done. And he always tries to find a way to do something new, which in this world is extremely impressive. And I bow down to him. So grateful for all he's done for the music world, and that I've been able to meet him twice. And he's just been super cool both times. So that is Dave Grohl. And that is our show for today here on Concert Pipeline. So I want to thank you for tuning in. And next week on the program, we will have Albert Cummings. I had a chance to talk to Albert about his 10th album and so much more. So you'll have to tune in to check that out. For all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. I'll catch you next time.